Good morning. I was going to say good afternoon, but it's still morning. Good morning. My name is Dr. Natandra Gradney, and I am a biology professor. I am full-time faculty at San Jack in Houston and a adjunct professor here at Lone Star. So my presentation is going to go over ways to use interactive tools, okay, to increase learning, to more importantly, engage your students, whether that be face-to-face or online. So why is interactive learning so important? Why is it crucial, especially in this day and age in learning? And so first off, collaboration. It increases collaboration in class, even online. So the tools that I'm going to discuss today, you can use them, like I said, face-to-face or online. And so we know in an online setting, it's kind of hard to get that engagement out of students and that collaboration. So these tools that we're going to discuss will help to increase that collaboration, make the learning more student-centered. Students will be able to check their own learning, have that accountability portion as they're going through the course within the semester. And this can be in any topic, okay, any subject. And so you can use these tools across the board. Another reason interactive learning is so important is that it increases critical thinking. So it encourages students to kind of think deeper, understand, the comprehension of the concepts versus just kind of memorizing, so that they are able to actually apply the information in different ways, okay? And it also helps with the retention, in our courses, right? If we can get a student, buy-in and involved in the course, then they are more willing to remain in the course throughout the entire semester, okay? As I said, with collaboration, this goes into increasing communication. We are in the age of, COVID happened where, students who may have taken a lot of courses online or, started online, then went face-to-face or back and forth. We need to kind of increase those social skills. And so again, this helps to having that interaction and that engagement helps to increase those things. And then, all of our students have different learning styles. So as long as that learning is, there's variations in there, we are touching base on every single, or touching on all of the types of learning, okay? And so making that learning more personalized for those students. So the tools that I'm going to talk about today are pretty popular, very common tools that many have probably heard of, especially in education. We may not use them all the time, especially in online classes. So I'm going to discuss how I use Mentimeter, Quizlet, and Quizlet Live, Socrative, and this tool called GoSoapBox, and then Blooket. And so all of these are more of like, you can use them as like a poll, to kind of check for understanding or for games, okay? So I would first like for you all to engage with me in this Mentimeter. And so there should be a link in the chat for Mentimeter along with the code so that you can join this. It's gonna come up like a word, like I call it a Wordle. Okay. But it's just, what do you think a highly interactive and engaging course requires? What are those things that you think makes a course interactive, specifically highly interactive and engaging? So let's see. Were we able to get that link in the chat? Okay, I see people in the chat. Okay, so the code is, you go to menti.com and the code is 6448308. Thank you. All right, so you can also use Mentimeter to take a poll of how your students are doing. Okay, so like in the course, you can if there's anything you want to stop in the middle of, or even let's say you're recording a video online, you want to kind of check to see where your students are. So you can, with Mentimeter, like I said, you can use like the word bubble or the Wordle, but you can also use it as like a poll, okay, and or like a ranking. There's a lot of different things that you can use Mentimeter for. And if you have the free profile, then of course there's limitations there, it's limited. But if you have you want to go in and purchase the pro and so forth, then you are able to get a lot more benefits. Okay. And that means, making more sessions or more polls and rankings and charts and things like that. Okay. So this is, this tool. So if I would have gotten some responses earlier, it would have kind of popped up. And so if you use this in your course, that's how it will kind of look. Okay. So like I said, it will, you can use Mentimeter for polls, you can use it for discussions, you can use it for quizzes. So there's a variety of ways that you can use it. I tend to use it for that check for understanding. So this is where I will, present the Mentimeter code and everything in my class and just kind of check where my students are and if we need to go back or if we can keep moving forward. Okay, if I need to revisit something. And so this helps me to, again, see where there are. But not only does it help me, it helps the students. I've also used Mentimeter, the discussion portion of it, as like a parking lot, as we call it. So students can jot down questions as we're going through the lecture. Or if they're online and they're going through my recording, there's a section in there where I say, hey, post your questions as you go through the recording. So I can see, during my office hours, I can open up Mentimeter and I can see, the things that students aren't understanding, and I'll make sure to go back and check on those. All right, so Quizlet Live. So Quizlet, we've all heard of Quizlet. So Quizlet, students usually use it as like a digital flashcard, okay? And so there's tons of apps out there for students to make flashcards digitally. But I like to encourage my students to use Quizlet, okay? And the reason so is because I use Quizlet Live in my courses. And so I use these for review sessions. And so what it does is it takes the set of cards that you've created and it allows you to play it in like a game-like fashion, okay? And you can play it individually, or you can put students in random teams, okay? And so when you do that, it will, randomly assign the students, and then they'll have to get together. The thing about the Quizlet Live is it's very competitive. So generally, it will allow about 12 cards. So I usually have anywhere from 30 to 40 flashcards that I'll create, and then we'll play about 3 or 4 rounds of it, okay? Because the max that you can have is 12, okay, that it will play at a time. And so students, when they're in groups, I rarely ever play this individually. So they'll play it in groups. And again, it's a competition. It's, which team, it's about being accurate and fast, okay, all in the same time. So the cool thing about Quizlet is usually it's in a set of 4 individuals, within a team or a group, and one person. So the question will, pop up, and only one person on their device will have the correct answers. So they have to work collaboratively to figure out who has the correct answer, but they have to be quick about it, and sometimes you have those students that, oh, I know the answer, and they'll click on it and it's the incorrect response. Well, what it will do is it will send them all the way back to the beginning. So they have to start over. So let's say they're at question 6, okay? And they get to question 6 and someone's just quick before they can collaborate with each other. And so when, he or she hits that answer, it will send them all the way back to 0, okay? And you'll hear the commotion in the class, or you'll get emails, oh, we didn't, we can't win now because we're behind everybody. Okay. But sometimes they can catch up. So this can get pretty loud and very interactive, especially in a face-to-face course. Okay. So with this one, students can use any device. They can use their phones. They can use, of course, their laptops. And they just need a code to join. And hopefully at the end of this session or towards the end, we'll have time to kind of engage in this and play it. Okay. So as I stated, I can use this in my face-to-face and my online courses. Like I said, in face-to-face, it gets very competitive. Okay, we play several rounds of it during review sessions, or if there's ever time at the end of lecture, I will open it up and say, okay, we got a Quizlet in preparation for the upcoming lecture exam. And so students, will get in their teams and begin to play, and they really enjoy it. A lot of the times people, students will compare it to Kahoot. Okay. But it has a little bit of a different feel. Most everyone plays Kahoot and has known about Kahoot for a while. And like I said, Quizlet is pretty common too. Okay. In my online classes, I will host like online review sessions and we will play a round of Quizlet. Okay. And I'll, of course, share my screen and students will be able to see. So if you look down at the image here, this is generally what I will project. So when students are playing, it will look something like this on my screen. On their screen, it's just the question and whatever their answer choices are. Okay. And so there's an incentive for the team or the groups that win. I give them anywhere from 3 to 5 extra credit points on the next lecture exam. Okay. And so students really, once I say, oh, it's time to play Quizlet, they're ready to play. The next tool that I use is titled GoSoapBox. And so GoSoapBox is, you can use it for polls, you can use it for discussions, but you can also use it, it has a barometer on it to check for students' understanding, okay? So I project this again in class or when I'm doing those online review sessions or we are meeting to discuss the lecture, or I will place the link in my lecture towards the end and ask students, do you understand? And so this barometer, the students, when they log in, they can choose if they're confused or if they get it. Okay. Now, if it's, you can see the kind of number there where it will say 2 confused and there's only, 1, it tells you how many students are online. But if I see a large number, let's say I have 30 students and I see 12 students are confused, this is when I will open up that back channel, that discussion board, and it will allow you to open them all up at the same time. And I'll encourage the students or advise them to go on that discussion board and tell me what it is that you're confused about. Okay. What part of this chapter or this lecture were you confused about? Okay. You can also use that back channel or that parking lot as entrance and exit tickets. Okay. Have these things projected when students get into class. We have a few 5 to 10 minutes as they're all entering in. I'll project, something on the discussion board and they will be discussing. It's a good way also for me to kind of take attendance as well while they're in class. And this is in my face-to-face. So while they're in class, I can take that attendance and, see who's there while they're all kind of discussing and looking up the information for the question. Okay. So again, I use the barometer a lot. I don't use the poll as much in GoSoapBox because I use the poll or the scale or the ranking for with using Mentimeter. Okay. But GoSoapBox, I tend to use that barometer. Okay. Or for discussion. Now, out of Quizlet, so Quizlet would be my number 1, okay? Socrative is my number 2 tool that I go to. I tend to use a variety and I use all of these, but Socrative would be my number 2. And so Socrative I use for quizzes, okay? So strictly for quizzes. It's an interactive response tool. It provides immediate feedback for myself, but also students, because they need to understand what it is that they don't understand, right? So they need to have an idea of what is it that I get, what I don't get before they take that summative assessment, okay? So I do this almost after every chapter, okay? And so once we finish a lecture, I will have these quizzes projected. This is face-to-face. Online, I will post the link to Socrative in my announcement and say, hey, you have a Socrative quiz this week, complete it by Friday. And again, that gives me time before they go on to the next chapter to say, okay, I'm going to host the study session this Thursday or this, Friday. And you guys, please join me if you can, because I noticed on the Socrative quizzes, this is what I saw. And the way that I use it is I usually will give anywhere from 10 to 20 questions, depending on, how dense that topic is or that chapter is. I teach biology. And so I will look, so you can, again, it gives you immediate feedback. So it will tell you, it will total up a percentage of how many students got the answer correct, okay, or incorrect. And so I will look at that to determine what are the concepts that I really need to focus on, okay? So I collect that data, I use those reports to figure out what is it that, again, my students are not understanding. But the good thing I love about Socrative is it gives those students an immediate response, and it tells them, this was the answer, this is what you chose. And students can have an idea of, oh, I need to go study this in this chapter of the book before I even, have a chance to make those review sessions or those study sessions. They will have an idea of what it is that they are needing to look over. And so this is generally what I will project in class, or again, during those review sessions, to let students know. So in class, it will show them, for instance, for me, it will say, this is green. So that means, hey, they totally get that concept. Number 4 would be the one that I would go over, okay, in class. And then this will be the one that I would go over in my review session with my online students, okay? Or at least make a discussion board to say, hey, you guys need to post some questions on what it is that you don't understand about this concept, okay? Because I noticed that, only 50% of you got this correct, okay? You were stuck between 2 answers. And on this, you can make the quiz multiple choice. You can make it short answer. You can do true or false. So there's a variety of questions that you can use. And the last one, this one is very new for me. I actually saw this from a professor at Rice. Okay, he had like an Instagram account, and he was using this tool with big football players, athletes. Okay, and they were all into it. So this, if you look at it, it looks very much like Kahoot. Okay, but it's just a game-based tool that you can use in your class. Okay, the cool thing I like about this, and the way that I use it online, is you can assign it as homework. Okay, and so I really enjoy that. So there's a variety of games that you can play, and again, there's free versions, and then there's, the versions that you have to purchase depending on what it is that you would like your students to have access to. Okay, I always use the free version. I mean, I'm a professor, right? So I always use the free version, and so I just have to choose between those games that I would like for the students to play, and what it is that they need to accomplish, whether it's collecting gold, or collecting or stealing something from their teammates or the other players. There's a variety of things. There's one where you can go fishing. It's called Fishing Frenzy. So it's a bunch of these that you can play. And again, a lot of these can be turned into game-based tools, okay, which again increases that interactivity, that engagement within the course. You can play this again individually, but you can also play it in groups. A lot of the times I use these tools, especially things like Quizlet and Blooket. Okay, I use these so that students will be able to collaborate. Okay, and so for face-to-face, online, and when I do my online sessions, or sometimes I'll encourage my online students to come to, we have like a center that students can meet at. And so I'll encourage them to come there, and I'll be in there, and we'll play these games, in the flesh, face to face. Okay, even though they're online students. And I will assign it for homework and for reviews. So if we have a little bit of time, okay, I do want to go to the next slide first, because sometimes it can take, I'm looking at the time here, and it takes a little bit of time to get everyone logged on. But I do want to talk about a few other tools that I've used. I don't use them as much now. I tend to use the others that I just previously discussed more than I do these. So I used to use Kahoot a lot. Okay, I came from K through 12, well, secondary. And so I used to use, when Kahoot was booming, I used to use it a lot. And then once I found Quizlet and Blooket Kahoot kind of went on the back burner. Okay. But it's still a very good, interactive tool to use. Students are comfortable with it. And they tend to enjoy it as well. So it's just something else that you can have in your toolbox to kind of throw in there. I used to use Plickers until they started charging us. So it used to be that there was no limit, and once I think it was a little bit after COVID, they started charging, and you could only do like 5 quizzes or so now. But Plickers is pretty cool because it's quick, it's fast, it's another response tool, but you can pose some questions, and students will have these little cards that will have kind of like odd shapes, and the instructor can take their phone and just scan it, go across the room. You don't have to be close. You can just scan the cards, and it will, you can either assign those cards to specific students, or you can just do it randomly, depending on how you want to assess your students. But it will show you, again, a scale on how many chose A, how many chose B, how many chose C and D. And students have to actually turn the card, the shapes are kind of odd, and they have to actually turn the card to figure out what their answer choice is. And they have to hold it up so that when I scan it, they have to make sure that that's the answer choice that they, want me to say that they selected. Okay. And then whiteboards.fi. So whiteboards.fi is actually made through the Kahoot company. And it's just, again, an interactive whiteboard. I know we have Zoom and WebEx and all of these other tools, that allow us to communicate, that you can have a whiteboard. Okay. But this one, I like it because, especially like in a math class or when I'm doing genetics, I will put a problem. Okay. Or, a genetics problem essentially, and I will have students complete it, and then I can complete it as well, but I can share my answer to the whole class. And so instead of, them just having their answer choices or whatever they did in the Punnett square, I can push out the correct answer and they'll be able to see it. Okay. And again, you can use this in face-to-face. You can use this online. And, how do you implement these things? And if we have time, I'm going to go back and we're going to try to, play those games. I would at least like to play one or two. But, we're always wondering, well, how can these tools be used like in our learning management systems? A lot of them, you can post the links. Okay. And I kind of previously mentioned that. Some of them can be embedded, okay, depending on if you're using Blackboard, where students can click directly on it. You can put the Socrative quiz directly in your LMS, and they'll be able to answer it kind of like a Google Doc, okay? And then you'll get the response, okay? So, you can use it in Blackboard, D2L, Canvas, and many more, okay? You would just have to look at, once you go to the actual site, to the tool site, then you will have to look at, what is it compatible with as far as embedding, okay? And you saw here in Mentimeter, I was able to embed it in my PowerPoint. So you can do that as well. So let's see if we have time to play. I think in the chat, let's go to Quizlet. So if you go to Quizlet.com and you want to type in live, okay, or /live, I do want to leave a few minutes for questions. So Joey, am I still good on time? Or should we go ahead and take questions?
I was just about to give you your 5-minute warning. You got 6
okay.
minutes.
Okay. So if you have time, go in and check these out. They're pretty good tools to use. Students tend to love them. But I do want to see if we have any questions and address those before we end.
Yeah, there's 2 questions waiting. There may sometimes more pop up right here as we start talking about them, but I can feed you the 2 that we have now.
Okay.
The first question is, do all of these apps work asynchronously for online courses?
Yes, they can. Okay. And that's what I was talking about. You can, like I said, I use Mentimeter, I use GoSoapBox, I use all of them in my lecture recordings. And, I'm kind of weird. They have to watch my lecture recording in order to access it. And a lot of times I will use it as extra credit. Okay. So those that don't watch the lecture recordings, they don't really, and I'll put it in my announcement that it's in there. And I've told them at the beginning of the class, but I will place the links in there, or PowerPoint works well with like Mentimeter, and you can just embed it within your PowerPoint.
Okay, and then the other question that's here is, how ADA compliant are these?
So that's a great question. I know Socrative does a really good job on, being making sure that they're accessible. The others, I want to say Quizlet too, but I don't really know how accessible like GoSoapBox and Blooket are. So I don't have a true answer for that because I've never, had a student say, I can't see it or I can't access it. But, with all of, I'm pretty sure they do. I would just have to figure out, how to make sure that they are compliant.
Yeah, there's 4 whole minutes left and no other questions have popped up, but if anyone in here has one come to mind, you can drop it in the QA chat for us here.
Has anyone ever used some of these before? How have you guys used them? I mean, I guess I have questions now. If you want to type in the chat or. And I'm sorry, I'm looking in the chat. I see that we were missing a digit on the code. I do apologize.
That's okay.
But if you get a chance, go in and check these tools out. I enjoy them, students enjoy them. They're quick, they're easy. Like I said, most of them, they're free. That's what I enjoy about it. And again, I mean, it may take 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes out of my class time to kind of engage the students. And once you get them, again, you get that student buy-in, they're stuck with you. They're like, oh, okay, what are we going to do today? What are we going to do today? Okay. And so I see someone has stated that they've used Kahoot. Yes. And so Blooket is very much like Kahoot. I mean, the look of it, very much so like Kahoot. And so, and students love Blooket. They like stealing the gold and everything. We usually play the gold quest and they love stealing the gold from other classmates. I think did a question pop up?
Yeah, one just popped up. The question asked, do you find that one of the apps works better asynchronously than the other apps?
Yes. So Socrative to me works the best asynchronously, can't talk today, than the others. Okay. I think so. Okay. Because you can actually embed it. So I know at Lone Star we use D2L and at San Jack we use Blackboard and you can embed it in both. Okay. And I've heard that you can embed it in Canvas as well. And I tend to use that one more too. So that could be the reason. I'm kind of biased, I guess. Yeah, I am. I know a lot of them can take, I didn't want to take up too much time. I wish we would have had time to play, but like I said, you can go in, make free accounts as an educator, test them out. Let's see, I think we have about 30 seconds left. I can see if I can share my screen just so you guys can kind of see what they look like. Okay, am I able to do that really
Sure, yeah,
fast?
of course.
Okay. So let me see, I have them pulled up.
Presentation might cut off right at 12:10 at the end, but if you're quick
Okay,
about it, then you'll
okay,
see it right before we're done. While she's
okay.
pulling it up, I'll just say my little closing, which is that if you want to do the session survey at the end, it's on there on the Whova page. All you gotta do is find this link again and click on that rate session.
I'm not sure which tab it would be. Can you guys see like my Zoom?
Yeah, I'm seeing your whole
Okay.
screen. I see
Okay,
your browser
perfect.
there.
Okay. Let's see. I can't seem to move the box out the way. So do you guys see the Mentimeter pulled up? I know it may cut off on me. I think it probably did. I can't see
I see
the
I see Mentimeter.com. Yeah,
okay. Okay. Yeah, I can't see the top of my screen, so I can't push out. I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
Okay,
Okay,
it's
so thank you
beeping
all
over
for
here,
joining.
guys, so it's gonna cut you off
Sure.
real smooth.
Okay. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you.